Hey you guys, so today we are going to be going over chapter 2, which is Anatomy and Physiology. Okay, we are on page 27 and we are working out of our My Lady Standard book. So let's begin. Explain why estheticians need knowledge of anatomy and physiology. Did your heart just start beating faster when you open this chapter? Correct. You are not expected to be a medical assistant, but this chapter will guide you through all of the body systems that need to work together to achieve healthy looking skin. Estheticians focus primarily on the muscles, bones, nerves, and circulations of the head, face, neck, arms, and hands. Whether applying products, giving a treatment, or doing a skincare analysis, as licensed estheticians, we touch people as part of our profession. This is true of very few other occupations, and it is an honor to be able to aid others in a great sense of well-being. Estheticians should study and have a thorough understanding of anatomy and physiology because estheticians need to understand how the human body functions as an integrated whole. Body systems are interdependent on each other, and if one system is not functioning optimally, it affects the entire body and can be evident on the skin. As a service provider, you must be able to recognize skin changes from earlier visits, and you may need to change a treatment plan or refer the client to a medical provider for evaluation. Estheticians must understand the effect that services will have on tissues, organs, and body systems. Recommendations for treatment plans and protocols for a client are based on the decisions made during a skin analysis and consultation and review of the client's intake form. Understanding the complexity of the human body and how body systems are interrelated will help you take the information into consideration when advising a treatment plan, recommending skincare products, or performing a service. As you guys can see, I have a lot of information that is highlighted in my book. If you are following along with me with your book, please feel free to highlight and put a star next to everything that you see here. This will simply help you answer your Chapter 2 Anatomy and Physiology test questions. Now, I know that as estheticians, this chapter can be a little bit overwhelming. It has a lot of information, a lot of terminology. Now, what I suggest you might want to do would be create flashcards, okay, with some of the terminology. That way you have available for you to study with later on. All right, so we are now on page 28. Define anatomy, physiology, and histology. As an aesthetic professional, an overview of human anatomy and physiology will enable you to perform your services knowledgeably, effectively, and safely on a consistent basis. Anatomy is a study of the structures of the human body and the substances these structures are made of. It is a science of the interconnected detail of organisms or of their parts. Physiology is a study of the functions and activities performed by the body's structure, including physical and chemical processes. Histology, also known as the microscopic anatomy, is a study of the structure and composition of tissue. Describe the basic structure and function of a cell. Cells are the basic unit of all living things. From bacteria to plants to animals to human beings, without cells, life does not exist. As a basic functional unit, the cell is responsible for carrying on all life processes. There are trillions of cells in the human body, and they vary widely in size, shape, and purpose. Basic structure of cell. The cells of all living things are composed of substance called protoplasm. A colorless jelly substance in which nutrients such as proteins, fats, carbohydrates, mineral, salts, and water are present. These nutrients materials are necessary for cell growth, reproduction, and self-repair. You can visualize the protoplasm of a cell as being similar to the clear gel of a raw egg. In addition to protoplasm, most cells also include a nucleus, organelles, and the cell membrane. The nucleus is the dense, active protoplasm found in the center of the cell. It plays an important part in cell reproduction and metabolism. You can visualize the nucleus as the yolk of a raw egg. Within the nucleus of the cell is the nucleoplasm, which is a fluid that contains proteins and a very important acid known as deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, is what determines our genetic makeup, including the color of our eyes, skin, and hair. Protoplasm is a watery, gel-like fluid containing the nutrient material necessary for cell growth, reproduction, and self-repair. Mitochondria take in nutrients, break them down, and create energy for the cell. Mitochondria work to keep the cells full of energy. This chemical energy used within the cells of metabolism is called ATP. Mitochondria are small organelles floating freely throughout the cell. Some cells have several thousand mitochondria, such as muscle cells, while others have none. Like red blood cells, muscle cells need a lot of energy, so they have many mitochondria. Neurons or nerve cells don't need as many. The cell membrane is part of the cell that encloses the protoplasm and permits soluble substances to enter and leave. It is selectively permeable, controlling the introductions of beneficial substances into the cell and the removal of waste and other substances that do not benefit the life of the cell. The cell membrane protects the cell from its surroundings. It also communicates other cells, linking like cells together to form tissues. Bottom of page 29. Cell reproduction and division. Cells that have the ability to reproduce, thus providing new cells for the growth and replacement of worn or injured ones. Mitosis is the normal process of cell reproduction in human tissue that occurs when the cells divide into two identical cells called daughter cells. As long as conditions are favorable, the cell will grow and reproduce. Favorable conditions include an adequate supply of nutrients, oxygen, and water, suitable temperatures, and the ability to eliminate waste products. Unfavorable conditions include toxins, poisons, disease, and injury, where the cells will become impaired or may be destroyed. Cell metabolism. Metabolism is a chemical process that takes place in living organisms. Metabolism converts nutrients to energy so the cells can function. Metabolism also eliminates waste. These functions allow organisms to grow and reproduce, respond to their environment, and maintain their structures. Describe the 4 types of tissue found in the body. Tissue is a collection of similar cells that perform a particular function. Each tissue has a specific function and can be recognized by its characteristics appearance. There are 4 types of tissues in the body. 1. Connective tissue. Connective tissue supports, protects, and binds together other tissues of the body. Examples of connective tissues are bone, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, fascia, which separates the muscles, blood, and fat, which also is called adipose tissue. Adipose stores energy and gives smoothness and contours the body. Collagen and elastin are protein fibers and also a part of connective tissue. Epithelial tissue is a protective lining on cavities of the body and surfaces of organs. Examples are skin mucous membranes, the lining of the heart, digestive and respiratory organs, and the glands. Muscle tissue contracts and moves various parts of the body. Nerve tissue carries messages through the central nervous system to control and coordinate all bodily functions. Nerve tissue is composed of special cells known as neurons, which make up the nerves, brains, and spinal cord. Page 32 at the top. Define the functions of major organs and systems of the body that intersect with the integumentary system and aesthetics. Functions in the body are carried out by organs. Organs are a collection of tissue that have an identifiable structure that performs specific functions. So, for example, the heart has muscle tissue that pumps blood, fibrous tissue that comprise the heart valves, and special tissue that maintains the rhythm of the heart beating. Body systems are groups of organs acting together for one or more function. It lists the body systems as well as some of the most important organs of the bodies whose functioning affects the integrity of the skin. So, as you can see on page 32, it has table 2.1 and it is listing all the body systems. So we have the integumentary. So it's the largest organ of the body. First line of defense against infection and water loss. Regulates temperature, sensation, produces vitamin D, and it has absorption capabilities. Then we have the skeletal, which forms the physical foundation of the body, consists of bones and movable and immovable joints. Then we have the muscular, covers shapes and supports the skeletal tissue, also contracts and moves various parts of the body, and it consists of muscles. Then you have the nervous system, carries messages through the central nervous system, controlling and coordinating all body functions. Then we have the circulatory, controls the steady delivery of the blood through the body, works with the lymphatic channels. On page 33, we have the immune lymphatic, which protects the body from disease by developing resistance and destroying disease-causing toxins, foreign materials, and bacteria. Then we have endocrine, affects growth, development, sexual activities, and normal regulatory processes of the body, consist of specialized glands. Then we have our reproductive system, which performs the function of producing children and passing on the genetics from one generation to another. Then we have respiratory, enables breathing, supplies the body with oxygen, and eliminates carbon dioxide as a waste product. Then we have digestive, which breaks down the food into smaller and smaller particles to absorb nutrients for excretion. Then we have the excretory, which refers to elimination of waste matter. Again, all of that can be found on page 32 and page 33. List the 5 accessory organs to the skin. The integumentary system is made up of the skin and its various accessory organs, such as sensory receptors, hair, nails, and the oil and sweat glands, also called exocrine glands. Skin anatomy and physiology are discussed and detailed in chapter 3. The word integument means a natural covering. So you can think of the skin as a protective overcoat for your body against the outside elements that you encounter every day, such as germs, chemicals, and even sun exposure. Identify the 5 functions of the skeletal system. We have the skeletal system forms the physical foundation of the body. The number of bones and compositions. The adult skeleton has 206 bones that form a rigid framework to which the softer tissue and organs of the body are encased and act as anchor points for muscles and ligaments to provide support for movement. Muscles are connected to bones by tendons. Bones are connected to each other by ligaments. The bone tissue is composed of several types of bones called embedded in a web of inorganic salts and collagenous fibers. The web gives the bone strength, and the fibers give the bone flexibility. The place where bones meet one another is typically called a joint. A joint is the connection between 2 or more bones of the skeleton. There are 2 types of joints. There's movable, such as the elbow, knees, and hips, and immovable, such as the pelvis and skull, which allow little to no movement at all. Functions. The primary functions of the skeletal system are to give shape and support to the body, protect various internal structures and organs, serve as attachments for muscle, and act as levers to produce body movements, to help produce both white and red blood cells, store most of the body's calcium supply, as well as phosphorus, magnesium, and sodium. Bones of the skull. The human head contains 22 bones divided into 2 groups, the cranium and the facial bones. The cranium is an oval bony case that protects the brain, and it is formed by 8 bones. The face consists of 14 bones, including the maxilla, which is the upper jaw, and the mandible, which is the lower jaw. Small openings in the skull allow the cranial nerves to extend to various locations on the head. All right, then we have bones of the cranium. So the cranium is made up of 8 bones. We have the occipital bone, which forms the back of the skull above the nape, this area here. Then we have the 2 parietal bones, which form the sides and crown of the cranium, And again, you guys can see everything on the picture on page 36. Then we have the frontal bone, which forms the forehead, and the 2 temporal bones, which form the sides of the head in the ear region. The ethmoid bone is the light spongy bone between the eye sockets that form part of the nasal cavities. The sphenoid bone forms the sides of the eye socket. The ethmoid and the sphenoid bones are not affected when performing services or giving a massage. Bones of the face on page 37. So 2 nasal bones form the bridge of the nose. The lacrimal bones, the smallest and the most fragile bones of the face, are situated at the front inside part of the eye socket. The zygomatic bone, also known as malar bones or cheekbones, form the prominence of the cheeks. 2 maxillary bones form the upper jaw. The mandible forms the lower jawbone, the largest and strongest bone of the face. And there is your diagram of the bones of the face, again on page 37. Bones of the neck. The main bones of the neck are the following. We have the hyoid bone, a U-shaped bone at the base of the tongue that supports the tongue in its muscles. cervical vertebrae, 7 bones of the top part of the vertebral column located in the neck region. Bones of the chest. Bones of the chest are important when performing full body treatments such as body wraps, as well as for massage that will include touching the sternum, scapula, and clavicle as body reference landmarks. The bones of the trunk or torso include the thorax, the chest or pulmonary trunk consisting of the sternum, ribs, and the thoracic vertebrae. It is an elastic bony cage that serves as a protective framework for the heart, lungs, and other internal organs. You guys, I am going to apologize in advance. I know I am mispronouncing a lot of these terms. I am so sorry. Ribs. 12 pairs of bones forming the wall of the thorax. Then we have the scapula, also known as the shoulder blade. The large flat triangular bone of the shoulder. There are 2 scapula. Sternum, also known as breastbone, the flat bone that forms the ventral, which is front, support of the ribs. Clavicle, also known as your collarbone, the bone that joins the sternum and scapula. The important bones of the arms and hands are as follow. We're on page 40. So we have the humerus is the uppermost and largest bone of the arm extending from the elbow to the shoulder. Next, we have the ulna is the inner and larger bone of the forearm attached to the wrist and located on the side of the little finger. The radius. The radius is a smaller bone in the forearm of the same side of the thumb. The carpus, also known as wrist, is a flexible joint composed of 8 small irregular bones held together by ligaments. Then we have the metacarpus, also known as palm, consists of 5 long slender bones called metacarpal bones. Then we have the phalanges, also known as digits, are the bones in the fingers, 3 in each finger and 2 in each thumb, totaling 14 bones. Recognize the muscles involved in aesthetic massage. The muscular system covers shapes and supports the skeletal tissue. Muscles are fibrous tissues with the ability to stretch and contract according to the demands of the body's movements. This system can contract and move various parts of the body. How is it important? As an esthetician will need familiarities with muscles for a number of reasons. Aesthetic massage involves manipulating the muscles of the face, neck, shoulders, arms, and hands. Many treatments using electrical modalities involve the understanding of the muscle movements in order to achieve the desired results. Your posture and positioning during treatments will require you to demonstrate good body mechanism in order to prevent muscle fatigue. The number of muscles and compositions. The human body has over 630 muscles, which are responsible for approximately 40% of the body's weight. Out of the over 630 muscles, 30 are facial muscles. There are 3 types of muscle tissue. Skeletal or voluntary muscle contract with conscious thoughts. 2. Smooth or involuntary muscles are not under conscious control. Then we have cardiac muscle are specific to heart function and are not under conscious control. Estheticians work with skeletal or voluntary muscles. These are the muscles attached to bones and are controlled by the thought process, nerve, impulses trigger a reaction from the muscle, which contracts, moving the bone or joint it is associated with. A skeletal or voluntary muscle has 3 parts. The 3 parts are the following. Again, I hope you're highlighting and putting a star next to everything that you see if you're following along with your book. We have the origin. I definitely see this being a question that you are asked on your state board exam. So again, the origin is the more fixed part of the muscle closest to the skeleton, which flexes but remains stationary, meaning that it does not move. Then you have the belly. The belly is the middle part of the muscle. The insertion is the part of the muscle that is the movable attachment and farthest from the skeleton. Pressure in massage is usually directed from the insertion to origin. Muscle tissue can be positively influenced during an aesthetic treatment by massage, electrical therapy current, light rays, dry heat, and moist heat. Okay, like of course using steamers or warm towels, for instance. Muscles of the scalp. There are 4 muscles of the scalp: frontalis, occipitalis, and 2 temporalis on the sides. The esthetician is most concerned about the frontalis, the scalp muscle that raises the eyebrows, draws the scalp forward, and causes wrinkles in the forehead. The epicranius, also known as the occipital frontalis, is a broad muscle that covers the top of the skull. It has 2 parts, occipitalis and frontalis. The occipitalis is the back of the epicranius. It's the muscle that draws the scalp backwards. Top of page 43. The corrugator is the muscle located beneath the frontalis and orbicularis oculi. It draws the eyebrow down and wrinkles the forehead vertically. The orbicularis oculi is the ring muscle of the eye socket and it closes the eyes. The levator palpebrae superioris muscle controls the eyelid and can be easily damaged during makeup application. Muscles of the nose. We have the procerus, lower the eyebrow and causes wrinkles across the bridge of the nose. The nasalis is a 2-part muscle that covers the nose and includes the transverse part and the alar part, which flare the nostrils. Muscles of the mouth. The following are important muscles of the mouth. The buccinator is the thin, flat muscle of the cheek between the upper and lower jaw that compresses the cheeks and expels air between the lips, as in when blowing a whistle. The triangularis, also known as the depressor anguli oris, is the muscle extending alongside the chin that pulls down the corners of the mouth. The mentalis is the muscle that elevates the lower lip and raises and wrinkles the skin of the chin. The orbicularis oris is the flat band around the upper and lower lips that compresses, contracts, puckers, and wrinkles the lips. Levator oculi oris is a muscle associated with smiling. The risoris is the muscle that draws the corners of the mouth out and back when grinning. Levator labii superioris is a muscle associated with lifting the wings of the nose and upper lip. Zygomaticus, major and minor, are muscles extending from the zygomatic bone to the angle of the mouth that elevates the lip, as in laughing. All right, we're now on page 44. Muscles of mastication, also known as chewing. The main muscle of mastication coordinate to open and close the mouth and bring the jaw forward and backward. These muscles are sometimes referred to as the chewing muscles. The estheticians need to know the location of these muscles when performing facial massage and electrical modality treatments. Masseter and temporalis, muscles of the ear. The three muscles of the ear are called the auricularis muscles. They work together to move the ear upward, forward, and backward. Muscles of the neck. Muscles of the neck include the following. The platysma is a broad muscle extending from the chest and shoulder muscle to the side of the chin. It is responsible for lowering the lower jaw and lip. The sternocleidomastoid is the muscle extending alongside of the neck from the ear to the collarbone. It acts to rotate the head from side to side and up and down. Muscles that attach the arm to the body. Muscles attaching the arm to the body include the following. The latissimus dorsi is a large flat triangular muscle that covers the lower back. It comes up from the lower half of the vertebral column and iliac crest, which is the hip bone, and narrows to the rounded tendon attached to the front of the upper part of the humerus. The pectoralis major and pectoralis minor are muscles of the chest that assist in swinging movements of the arm. On page 45, we have muscles of the shoulder and arm. Here are the principal muscles of the shoulders and upper arm. The trapezius muscle covers the back of the neck, shoulders, and upper and middle region of the back, shrugs shoulders, and stabilizes the scapula. The biceps muscles produce the contour of the front and inner side of the upper arm. They lift the forearm, flex the elbow, and turn the palms outward. The deltoid is a large triangular muscle covering the shoulder joint that allows the arm to extend outward and to the side of the body. The triceps is a large muscle that covers the entire back of the upper arm and extends the forearm. Muscles of the forearm. The forearm is made up of a series of muscles and strong tendons. As an esthetician, you will be concerned with the muscles of the forearm, so you can assure you use good body mechanics when performing treatments. In addition, you may also be performing some hand and forearm massage during a relaxing facial session. Muscles of the hand. The hand is one of the most complex parts of the body with many small muscles that overlap from joint to joint, providing flexibility and strength to open and close the hand and fingers. Massage can help relax and maintain the pliability of these muscles. Important muscle movements to know include the following. Abduction. Muscle that draws the body apart, such as finger, arm, or toe, away from the midline of the body or extremity. In the hand, abduction separates the fingers. Adduction, muscles that draw the body apart, such as finger, arms, or toe inwards towards the median axis of the body or of an extremity. In the hand, abduction draws the fingers together. Flexion is when muscles move to pull the body part towards the core of the body, such as when the biceps of the arm are activated towards the body. Extension is when muscles straighten, the wrist, hand, and fingers form a straight line, for example. Pronate is when muscles turn inward, for example, when the palm faces downward. Supinate is when muscles rotate, for example, in the forearm, the radius turns outward and the palm upward. We are going to stop on page 47, but if you would like to keep watching and following the rest of the chapter, we are going to continue on page 48. Please look for video number 2.